Hi there, welcome to MotionGuide. Today I'll be demonstrating how to animate a bouncing ball using keyframes in Flash CS6. If you're using an older version of Flash, you'll also be able to follow along. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. Alright, so first open up your version of Flash. Make sure your frame rate is set to 24 frames per second. My screen size is currently set to 1920 by 1080, but it doesn't really matter too much what your screen size is. And in Flash CS6, you can change your options over here or by clicking this tool here. If you're using an older version of Flash, such as Flash 8 or CS3, in that version, you can find those settings over here. Just double click and you can change your dimensions and your frame rate. Alright, so let's go back to CS6. I've pre-made a template to help stage the scene. And on a layer above this, I have our ground plane, which will act as our background. So here's our template, and here's our background. All right, so let's make a layer above this. We'll name it ball. And using the drawing tools here, we'll click and select the oval tool. Now, if you hold Shift and drag, you can make a perfect circle, as opposed to just clicking and then you can make different shape sizes. So we're going to hold Shift, drag to make our circle, move it over to our template. If we press Q and hold Shift, when you click on a corner, you can resize it and keep the dimensions the same. And we can match it up to our template as close as we can. Perfect. So now we're going to double click on this. So we select both the fill and the outline. Now if we press F8, we'll be making a symbol. We want to keep the type as graphic. Registration point in the middle is fine. And we will change the name to ball. Okay, now we have our ball. Now that our ball is made, let's add our keyframes. The keyframes are mapped out in red on our template. Keyframes are the extreme positions of an action. So if we look at our template here, I've labeled them as such, and this guy actually would most likely also be a key, either a key or a breakdown. Let's call this guy a key. So we'll just change the color just to make it the same. Swap that, there we go. Okay. So that looks a little more, makes a little more sense to me. Just to make things more clear. Okay. So let's go ahead and add our keyframes. So to scroll along on the timeline here, I'm just holding down either the comma or the period key, and that just lets you scrub back and forth. So we'll move to frame number 6, because that will be our next keyframe. Press F6 to create a keyframe, and we'll move our ball over here. To zoom in, you can hold down Control plus to zoom in. Control minus zooms you out. So we're going to zoom in a bit here. Press Q to get our transform tool, and we're going to stretch it. Important thing to note when you're stretching or squashing an object is it's really important to keep the volumes. So as we squish it in, you're going to want to stretch it out too, just to keep the volume similar to your object. Okay, we're going to move over to frame 7 here. Press F6 to make another keyframe. And we'll squash it down. So let me just explain for a minute exactly what's happening here. So as you can see on the template, the ball enters this screen, follows an arc, goes from slow, speeds up, impacts, and as it's speeding up, it stretches, it impacts, it squishes, shoots off again, goes to its highest point here, and it slows down through that arc, stretches, impacts, takes off again, follows an arc, and exits this scene. So that's basically what our ball is doing. The keys, which are extremes, show the extremes of the action of what's happening, the high points of where the ball is, and as you can see, it starts to slow down and doesn't bounce as high as it continues, as it loses momentum. All right, so let's finish off these keys here. Frame 8. Another way, if you wanted to start squashing this ball from scratch, you press Control-Shift-Z. That takes away all the transforms you placed on the symbol. And now we can stretch it and squish it and move it. There we go. Awesome. All right. Squish. And there we go. So let's go to frame 11 to add the rest of our keys. Again, I'll just press Control-Shift-Z to take away the transforms. Since it's at the peak of the arc, its volume returns to its original form. All right, frame 14, stretches. And one thing you can see as well, through this stretch and squash, it's not as drastic as the first one because it's losing speed, so it won't squash as much as it would on the first one. All right. Alright, almost done the keys. Quickly get this sorted. Yeah, I really love the bouncing ball exercise because it shows some of the key principles of animation, which includes staging, squash and stretch, arcs, slow in and slow outs, and timing. So it's a very good exercise to do. All right, almost done our keys. One more on frame 20 here. It has just a little bit of shape change there. Okay, sweet. So now that our keys are done, let's take a look at what it looks like. We'll hide the template by clicking this button here. And let's press enter to watch what we've got. Cool. As you can see, it's starting to take shape. You can see the basic action of what we're trying to do because of our keys. Although some information is still missing. So what's important now is to add some breakdown drawings. As you can see from our template, the breakdown drawings are in blue. Breakdown drawings is basically a key that isn't in extreme position, but also is more important than a straight in between. It helps to show the action you're trying to create. I like to think of them as a key that helps define the arcs, or a drawing that helps to avoid guesswork in an action. Just kind of helps to show what the movement you're trying to achieve. If you didn't have these breakdowns, for example, if you left it up to an assistant or the computer to do the in-betweens, it will just try and get there in the quickest way possible, which would be a straight line. And so the ball would go from frame 1, and instead of going to position 4 here and following an arc, it would go straight across here and go straight to number 6 or number 7, and that would create a very robotic, machine-like feeling. And that's what we want to avoid. So let's add some breakdown drawings. So let's go to frame 4 here, press F6 to create our keyframe. Move the ball, and let's just stretch it a little bit as it's starting to speed up. It's slowly changing its shape. keeping the same volumes, of course. Now let's go to frame 9. There we go. 2 more to go. If you're ever unsure if your volumes are changing, you can always just hide the template and flip between the keys and take a look and see if the size is working. It looks pretty good to me. Okay. Frame 16. Now, as you can see, I'm not always following the template exactly. The template is more of a guide. It's just kind of your rough staging of what you're trying to achieve. Okay, now that our breakdowns are in, let's take a look. Again, you can press enter to view. All right, starting to shape up now. Now let's add our in-betweens. The in-betweens are there to just help with the timing and to smooth out the animation. As you can see, where the in-betweens are placed here, they overlap more so at the peak of the arc because it's slowly, and as it goes down, it speeds up, and the ball positions are further apart. So let's continue adding our keyframes. So frame 2, press F6. Frame 3, starting to change shape a little bit, not too much. And of course, depending on what type of object you're animating, the squash and stretch would differ. For example, if you're animating a bowling ball, the timing would be completely different. It wouldn't bounce as high or at all, and the squash and stretch would be a lot less. Okay, frame 5. Check our volumes for a second here. A little bit big. There we go. Frame 12. Almost there, guys. You can also move your symbol with the arrow keys. Left, right, up, down, and if you hold shift in the arrow keys, it moves the same symbol but a greater distance with each click. Okay, now we've got all our positions in place. Let's take a look at what we've got. Sweet. Okay, now the ball is a little fast, as you can see. So there'll be 2 things we're going to do. I'm going to add 2 more keyframes. One will be in the beginning here, so the ball starts off screen completely, and then one at the end so the ball is off the screen completely. So I'm going to move all my keyframes over by clicking on the first one, holding shift and clicking on the last one, and moving the whole group over by 1. And And on the last frame here, I'm going to press F7 to create a blank keyframe. Now to view the screen and just the screen, you can press Ctrl-Shift-W and then press Ctrl- to zoom out a bit. And there we go. Okay, so the second thing I'm going to do is to space this out so the timing is slower. Right now, we've animated the ball on ones, which means every frame there's a new drawing. Ones is good to animate fast action on, or if you're doing any animation where there's a camera move or a panning background, it'll be important to do your animation on ones. Otherwise, it's pretty good to kind of mainly animate on twos, put various actions or movements on ones, like the fast action. We can go into more detail at another time about that subject. For now, let's just put our bouncing ball on twos to slow this down. So I'm just going to move everything over one, like so. So each frame will be on screen for 2 frames instead of the one. Another way to space this out like so would be by clicking on the frame and pressing F5, and that will add a space there for you. One thing to keep note of when you're adding spaces, pressing F5, it's making the timeline longer at the end here. So we'll just have to keep that in mind and trim it when we're done. So this is kind of, could be dangerous if you had animation over here already with keyframes, because it will push everything over. So I tend to personally like to drag things, but just for time reasons, and I know I don't have anything here, I'm doing it this way. So now I'm going to take this end, right click, remove frames. There we go. So now let's watch our bouncing ball one more time. Beautiful. Another good trick is this button here, which is the onion skin. If you click it, and now you can drag this little handle and highlight as many frames as you want, and it shows you where your ball has been, and also it can show you where your ball is going. So this is a great tool to double check your arcs and to see if everything is moving the way you would like it to. And I'm fairly happy with this. So take a look and see our lovely bouncing ball. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial of animating a bouncing ball using keyframes. Please leave a comment or email me if you have any questions regarding this tutorial. If you have any suggestions for a tutorial you'd like me to do in the future, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye!